Hello, everybody, and welcome to Perspective. Again, we're talking about the home edition with the pandemic raging all around us. So, like a lot of folks across the country, we're doing our show from home. Our first guest today, by golly, I'm glad to meet this fella because he's done a yeoman's job. I got to tell you, his name is Graham Brannin, and Graham is with M.e.t, M.e.t, and the spelling is unusual because it's capital M, small case E, small case T. Graham, welcome. Why the difference?
Oh, thank you. Yes, the M.e.t is the Metropolitan Environmental Trust. And if you try to spell that out on every tagline you do, it becomes a little bit long. So that's why we're called the M.e.t.
Well, that's fine. I just couldn't figure out why it was small case E, small case T. It doesn't matter. You know, when I moved to Tulsa several years ago, the garbage and recycling situation was really a lot different than it is today. Time passed. Now we've got the dark gray carts and the blue carts, dark gray for garbage and the blue carts for recycling. Is that what M.e.t is responsible for, helping everybody recognize and realize why it's important to recycle?
I'll give you a complicated answer. Yes and no. Yes, we are involved in the education around these programs, trying to get everybody to understand how it works in their particular area. But no, we don't actually run the program in Tulsa as far as the curbside recycling goes. We have recycling centers, we call depots, where people come and drop off their materials, but we don't run the curbside program.
Gotcha. Let's talk about that then. Let's break it down. What actually, if I wanted to go buy a recycling operation, the site you just mentioned, can anybody go?
Sure. Yes, this is open to the public. We're really targeting residential folks, so not so much businesses, but yeah, anybody can go by. We actually even have what we call night drops, so people can come any time of day or night to drop their materials off, and we'll make sure they get recycled. So yes, they can come by. We're not asking for their driver's license or anything like that. We're ready to help.
Help me understand, or help the folks at home understand, because I'm pretty well on board with it. But recycling is a major element of importance, is it not?
Sure. Yeah, it's very important for the environment. We're talking about our natural resources and conserving those natural resources. And the one example I try to give the most, because it makes the most sense to me, is aluminum, for instance. Aluminum comes from an ore called bauxite. That ore is usually mined in some far-flung country well away from America, much less Oklahoma. And there's all sorts of processes that go into it before you get the aluminum you can use for a can. So it's really an intensive deal to do. But if you have an aluminum can that's been used and you want to turn that back into an aluminum can, it's a very simple and some closer to local thing to do, and it's much cheaper, and it's saving those resources that are so precious.
Well, all right, help me get some clarification here. The blue cans that are around all our homes,
right?
Are those delivered to you?
No. Okay, so the blue carts that you see in some of the communities are for the curbside recycling side of their program. So they'll have, like you said, the gray cart would be for trash, the blue would be for recycling, okay? And so that material will be picked up in more or less a trash truck, even though they keep it separate. And then they will tip those, because those carts can be tipped real easily with a little mechanical tipper. And then they will go to a facility called a MRF, materials sorting facility, and they will separate the materials out. We don't do it that way. We take materials that people bring to us, we keep it separate, all the way, and we take it to our own place where we bale it and sell it. So the curbside program is separate from the program of recycling centers. So some communities have curbside, some do not. Even the ones that have curbside, like for instance Tulsa, Broken Arrow now, those places, there's also folks that don't have access to that curbside program, say apartments, for instance, and there's others, but they can always use our center, and we'll make sure that it's recycled.
I know for a long time, folks weren't really aware of how much damage plastic can do to our environment. It just never goes away. It's always out there. But you guys have a way then of moving it to an area where it can be dealt with.
Yes, the plastics, we're talking about the common plastics. They have numbers, resin numbers, number 1, number 2. It's not that complicated. The way I think of it is anything like a water bottle, a pop bottle that's plastic. Those are number 1s. They're called PET. And then the number 2s are your milk jugs, your detergent jugs, those kind of things. If it has a handle or a neck, it's easily recyclable. All materials have to be separated at some point. But our number 1, for instance, water, we call them water bottles. We can get those directly hauled to a place where they make the resins that will go back and make bottles again. So our bottles become bottles, and that's the highest way to recycle.
Well, that's a great move. That's a great move. I know since the push has been on for, I don't know, the last 10 years or so, about paying attention to the environment and to Mother Earth and what's going on, and that she's really upset right now. We're finding more and more folks bringing in video what was happening to our oceans. We see, for instance, the big turtles entangled in plastics. We see areas of the reefs that are being destroyed by waste. And I saw a special just the other night on National Geographic where, honest to goodness, it was like a floating island of trash in the Atlantic Ocean. They said it was about half the size of Maine, and it's coming from everywhere. So folks have got to get on board with the recycling factor. And if you have things around your home, my wife just cast a look at me, that you'd like to recycle, then you should get it to the Met.
Right. Yeah. Plastics are the perfect example of what you're talking about in that garbage patch that happens in the oceans. But plastic is a relatively new commodity. I mean, it depends on your age what new means, but from the 50s, there was no plastic. It didn't exist on the face of the earth until really the 1950s. So every bit of plastic has accumulated since then. We didn't know what we were doing at first, and the convenience and the cost and all that were so wonderful that we just jumped all in. And then all of a sudden we start to realize we've created quite a problem. So recycling, making sure it doesn't end up in the trash, or worse, litter, and ending up, everything goes downhill, as they say. The ocean is your last spot that it can go, and so that's where it ends up eventually. So we want to keep that from happening, and recycling is a win-win for the environment and for people.
Yeah. Graham, we're fast running out of time. Before we do, how long have you been with the Met?
I've been with the Met a little over 5 years as the director, and I worked assisting them as a City of Tulsa employee actually for 20 years before that.
But you're about to call it quits, aren't you?
Yes, I figure they can do better than me and get a good replacement. I think they do have a good replacement, and I've got some other things I want to do closer to home and enjoy the great outdoors a little more. So yes, it's been a great ride.
Does fishing figure into that?
Fishing is part of it. I actually have ponds around my property. I can fish. I can just walk fish. It's great.
No kidding. Well, anytime you want someone to walk with you,
okay,
You know how to reach me.
There
Hey,
you
listen, Graham, thanks for taking time to visit with us today and telling us about the Met. And good luck to you, my friend, in your retirement.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity.
We'll talk again someday, perhaps.
All righty.
All right, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, the effervescent John Woolley standing by to talk about a couple of new books he's penned right after this.